Thank you. Our next question is about a popular subject, taxes. And we'll start with you, Commissioner Sparks. Some Alabamians believe state taxes are too high. Others note that they are lower here than in most of the other states in our nation. And some, including Governor Riley in his first term, say Alabama's taxes unfairly burden the poor. What do you believe is the case, and what changes, if any, would you make to Alabama's tax structure?
Well, I'm not going to raise the taxes on the working men and women of Alabama. And if you remember, Governor Riley laid a $1.2 billion tax package to raise the people of Alabama's taxes on the table, and it was defeated very soundly. What I've said is we're going to go back and we're going to tax gambling. That is the most obvious place to get money today. Let's don't play like that gambling's not in this state. It's been in this state for 25 years. The problem is we hadn't taxed it, we hadn't regulated it, we hadn't controlled it, and we don't have a statewide gaming commission. But we're continuing to let people travel from Alabama to Biloxi. 4 million visits last year. Loading buses every day, sending them to Biloxi. You know, people are buying lottery tickets every day. That's what we need to do. Go after the most obvious tax that's laid out there today, and that's gaming. And as governor, I will go after it and tax it.
Do you think Alabama's taxes unfairly burden the poor?
Well, that's why I've said that I would take the grocery tax off. As governor, I would take the grocery tax off. I think that is a very unfair tax, and as governor, I would take that off. But I am not going to raise the taxes on the working men and women of Alabama. I have signed a no-tax pledge, and I will live up to that commitment.
How would you make up the revenue if you eliminated the grocery tax?
Well, I'm the only guy that has a plan. I'm the only guy that says we're going to raise any revenue by gaming. My opponent don't have a plan to raise revenue. He talks about creating jobs. Well, I'm going to create jobs too. But how many children are going to fall through the crack waiting on these jobs? We've got to have revenue within the first 90 days. And I have a plan to do just that.
Dr. Bentley, 2 minutes to talk about what you would do, if anything, with Alabama's tax structure.
Well, I am not for raising taxes. I think the thing that you do not do in a down economy is to raise taxes. In fact, I think that if the federal government had done what they should have done 18 months ago and cut taxes on investments, on individuals, and on companies, we would already be coming out of this recession today. But they didn't do that. They spent a year on health care. And instead of wasting a year on trying to take over the health care system, had they done what they should have done, we'd be coming out of this today. I am not for raising taxes. Now, there are taxes that are not being collected in this state that we need to look at. Streamlined sales tax is one. We need to look at that. The taxes that are not being collected on internet sales. Those are the streamlined sales taxes. That would generate $240, $250 million if we collected those. And they're supposed to be collected. We're trying to collect use taxes right now, and that's hard to collect because many times people don't want to report those. But I do think that there are areas, and I've been told as much as $1 billion of taxes are being uncollected at the present time. And that's not raising taxes. That's just collecting taxes that are already owed by people in the state of Alabama.
Do you believe that the state's tax system unfairly burdens the poor?
I don't. I am for taking the tax off of food, but I am not for replacing it by taking away the deduction of a person's income tax, their federal income tax, off of their state income tax. And the reason I'm not for that is because that hurts businesses. When you hurt businesses and you tax businesses, you're going to lose jobs. And we need to be creating jobs. And we need to give tax breaks to businesses, not hurting them.
How would you pay for it if you took off the grocery tax?
You just take it off. Slowly. 1 cent a year.
Thank you. Commissioner Sparks, 1 minute for rebuttal.
Well, one thing that we strongly need to look at is no-bid contracts. You know, we've had no-bid contracts that's come up in elections for the last 8 to 10 to 12 years. But you know, in Alabama today, we have $2.7 billion of no-bid contracts. That's why I'm going to hire an inspector general. If we could get our hands around 10% of that, that's $270 million that we could put in education. That's $270 million that we could put in Medicaid. Because, I want to make sure that the Children's Hospital in Birmingham gets funded. 54% of the money that funds the Children's Hospital is Medicaid. 90% of the children in Alabama today who have cancer go to the Children's Hospital in Birmingham. That's why I'm going to fight for additional revenue for Medicaid and education. That's why I'm going to tax gambling. That's why I'm going to look at no-bid contracts. That's why I'm going to look at loopholes for those who do business in Alabama and don't pay their taxes in Alabama.
Thank you. Dr. Bentley, you have 1 minute.
Well, I think that we need to look for areas of taxes that are not being paid, but as long as our Constitution remains the way it is at the present time, we have to realize that our education system is funded by growth taxes. And so what we're going to have to do is to make sure that we put people back to work in order to get those taxes. That's the only way you can get them. Taxing gambling is not the answer. Putting people back to work with real jobs is the answer.